Happy is just not the word. I mean, it's hard to say you're happy, but, I'm grateful.
We do look forward to the court date because then I feel like as a family we truly can heal and we can.
Oh, I look forward to, I look forward to
it being over.
It being over, very much so. I'm thankful that we have a date and that we have something that we could get to and that we're moving forward. I do wish it was a lot sooner because our lives, they're on hold.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
If anyone deserves to know what happened to the last moments of their child, it's the parents. It's just wrong to be shut out of your own child's life. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah, and we'll learn in trial when everybody else does, which is really hard. Like, I don't think people realize that this is real.
It's not a movie.
This is not a movie. This is not a story. I have always just really based so much of my feelings and whatnot on court dates that we've had. And even the smallest movement in those court dates that we've had for even the smallest emotions and whatnot, just really, I kind of lose it.
Well, hello there, you amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. And guess what? That's right, baby. It's the midweek hump. Isn't it funny how the only day that I remember religiously is the midweek hump? And you're looking absolutely amazing, I may add. And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes, as you have just heard a segment from an interview that was recently done with the Goncalves family. And it was talking about the trial. Obviously, we've now got a trial date for the Idaho 4 case and Brian Kohberger. That is the 2nd of June 2025. Now, some people say that this has gone on for too long. Some of us who have seen the length of time it takes to get other, people to trial, this isn't actually that far out of the realms of normality. Look at the Delphi case, for instance. And look what happens when you try and do it a little bit quicker. The Karen Reed case, for instance. We won't go there. Not today. But look, you heard what they said. Now, it would appear to me that the Goncalves family are now fully come to terms with or accepted that Brian Kohberger is the person who did this crime. And it would appear that they have no doubt in their mind that the trial is going to bring a conclusion to the Idaho 4 case. And I ask you guys, and let me know down below in the comments, do you truly believe that if things remain as they are right now, that indeed this trial will bring this case to an end? Because I don't. Now, look, what I will say is I appreciate where we stand at the moment is here. This is the reality of the situation. We have a September date for the rest of discovery to come forward. The question is, will the rest of discovery come forward? Is there anything else to come forward? Do they have anything else? Does the prosecution have an ace in the hole? Do they have things that they are withholding at this stage from the defense, and they're seeing how long they can stretch out to absolutely leave it until, the last point they can to give the defense the least time possible to deal with what they hand over to them? Or are you someone like me who kind of feels that, do you know what I mean? If you had a slam dunk case, if you had evidence that absolutely proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Brian Kohberger did the crime, you wouldn't have had any problem handing it over. You'd have just done it. How can we be heading into, a year and a half, coming up to 2 years where this crime took place, and the defense team being able to say that they are stating that their client is innocent? And you've got professional witnesses coming forward who are indeed professionals in their field, who are able to question the evidence that has been brought forward in the PCA. Because how I'm understanding at the moment, I'm not a legal professional, not at all. And perhaps that gives me a unique perspective, because I can look at it from how perhaps a juror would look at it, a juror who is open-minded and willing to, look at both sides of the coin, not just be biased and want to send this guy to his death. Because and we'll stick a pin in that for a second, we'll come back to that. But yeah, the Goncalves family, now we know that Christy has kind of always believed Bryan Kohberger as the person who did it. She has put a lot of trust into law enforcement and their conclusion. So they say it's Bryan, that's it. And perhaps Christy just isn't looking at anything else. Perhaps she can't. Perhaps it's just too painful to go into the details of it all. She is just, they've said this him, it's him. I don't want to think beyond that. Let's just crack on and get done. The thing what's kind of thrown a curveball to me is that Steve Goncalves was never in that camp. Steve Goncalves was of a mindset that right at the beginning he felt that there were people who were cleared too soon. So what changed? Do you now think that they were fine, that they weren't cleared too soon? You don't think anybody needs to be questioned? It would say that Steve Goncalves had himself questioned Jack even. He'd questioned him. He'd basically strip searched the lad and checked for injuries. And then, once he was satisfied, him and Jack would seemingly scour over who was friends, who wasn't friends, what was going on, and this and it, like conducting their own mini investigation. But then, somewhere along the line, something changed. Something changed, and Steve Goncalves now seems to be convinced that this trial will bring a conclusion. But then you hear them say statements such as, we will learn when everyone else learns. We'll learn what? Because part of that, again, would be Steve Goncalves saying that they want to know what happened. Well, we kind of know what happened. We know the kind of the gruesome details of it. Your child, along with 3 others, were viciously slain. So that's exactly what happened. I suppose the question is, why did it happen? Why did this happen? And when you ask why, you're basically asking for a motive, aren't you? That's the thing that's missing, and that's the problem here. I think that Steve and Christy, Steve especially, is wanting motive. He wants the motive, and perhaps he feels that that's what's missing with the Bryan Kohberger situation, and that's what he's hoping the trial will satisfy. But I rarely ask this question now. What if the trial doesn't satisfy the motive element of this case? We talk about means, motive, opportunity. Did Bryan Kohberger have the means? Yes, he had the means because he's a human being, and human beings can be vicious animals. We've seen it in the past. Opportunity. Was there an opportunity to? Now, yes, there's an opportunity. There proves to be an opportunity because the crime happened. So that satisfies opportunity. And Bryan Kohberger seemingly, even I will say that his alibi isn't great. Of course it's not great. But that doesn't mean that he is guilty just because his alibi is of him being on his own and driving around. In fact, it just puts him in an unfortunate position that he now needs to prove that he wasn't where they're saying he was. And again, as a caveat to that, that's where we have Ray causing huge problems in this case by basically saying the evidence that's saying he was here doesn't say that. The evidence doesn't say that. Now, it could say that if you fill in all the blanks, but basically, you could say that he was anywhere. Using the information that you've pushed forward, he could be anywhere. It's just convenient that part of that analysis means that you can place him here. But that isn't enough. That's like saying he could be anywhere in this circle. We need him to be here, so we're saying he's here. And to get here, he could have took this route. But we can't even prove that because we don't have footage of that. We can't show that he did that. We just believe he was here, he was somewhere in this circle, and these are the routes he could have took to get to here. But we don't have no footage of it. We don't have no proof of it. We have random pictures of white Hyundai Elantras, or cars we believe are white Hyundai Elantras, but we know that's not the only light-coloured Hyundai Elantra or Sonata in the area. But we have the knife sheath. And that's a hurdle that the defense are going to have to get over. And it's also something that the prosecution are going to have to, if they want to dig deep on the knife sheath and they don't really have anything stronger, and that is indeed their anchor, then they are going to have to show that everything that was done around this was done properly. It was done by the book, and there's no grey areas to it. But like I say, are the Goncalves family seeking for motive? Because at the moment, there is no motive here. With respect of Brian Kohberger, there is no motive. And every crime has a motive. Now, people will say you don't need a motive. Like, from a legal perspective, you don't need a motive. But for the crime to happen, there has to be a motive. There has to be something that triggered it. Unless we go down the route of saying this was just random. He could have done it to anyone. But we covered that in part 1 of my 3-part little mini-series, where part 3 will come out later, which looks at revenge. Which I can't help but feel that this has revenge killing written all over it. Doesn't look like a random killing. It doesn't look like that. And it doesn't look like someone was infatuated with someone in that house, unless what happened in that house was extremely different to what Dylan Mortensen and law enforcement have pushed out. And in fact, perhaps Madison Mogan was a target, and Bethany Funke has exculpatory evidence that completely shifts the timeline, which then removes the white Hyundai Elantra and then potentially removes Brian Kohberger out of the equation. This version of events only works if a lot of moving pieces work together in unison. And the fact of the matter is, at this stage, they haven't proven that. And the trial hopefully will. You know, I don't want a monster to walk, but I don't want an innocent man to be convicted, because everybody who feels some kind of emotional connection to this is blinded by garbage that isn't factual. Like the Cy Ray situation. For instance, and I've said this before, many people don't have a problem with Cy Ray's technology putting people behind bars, but they seem to have a huge problem when Cy Ray speaks of the possibility that that same exact technology could exonerate Brian Kohberger from this crime. You can't have your cake and eat it. You either trust in it, you believe in it, you believe in him as an individual with the skills that he has acquired over the years that he's been dealing with this. And things like that should concern people like the Goncalves. Have they just chosen to ignore it? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.